kaiman ta, kaiman bak mataran din, ay tinurawat, na kaiman awatan din, ikakan nang dida, ay pugawad nga siya, ikakan din, market of resistance.
Ay, kita po, kayo kayo ng mga kunaya, mga tao dito, tao may kayo.
Baligos po. Baligos po. Ay, baligos po.
Naisip ka na isok ka. Alam ta adidal sa diskus ng tagem niya lumlum na. Paano?
If people would like to partake in this ritual and the blessing for this launch, please.
Okay. So thank you for that opening. It's ongoing, the ritual. Thank you, Tommy and Jason, for coming down all the way from Baguio together with Abby and Randy. We'd like to welcome everyone to this landmark event. It's the third. Markets of Resistance is a project that deserves 3 book launches. No? So welcome and thank you for joining us this afternoon. To be honest, I was not familiar with the project that was held in 2014, more than 10 years ago. I was out of commission at that time, but I came to know a bit about it and a little more through Angel when we met a few years back, and then we started to work together for some projects. And this launch, in a way, is also a continuation of a recent exhibition we had, Gong, Smoke, Blood, and Earth, which featured the vibrant art scene in Baguio City. The project which Angel started was not a single person's endeavor. It was a community that helped and collaborated with her, nurtured the project, and I believe it also resulted to other projects after. So we're very honored to be the third venue for this book launch. The book launch in Manila. New York was the first event, and then 2 weeks ago it was in Baguio, and now here in Ateneo Art Gallery. We'd like to acknowledge the presence of Secretary Kiko Benitez of the Technical Education and Science Skills Development Authority, or known as TESDA, who's with us today, and would like to call on him to give a few words because he was actually an integral part of the project.
Akala ko may panel. No, no. Actually, it's really because I requested to speak first because I have to leave very soon. This is a short interlude in my otherwise from my old life. No, in my otherwise more. Ano ba tawag mo dyan, Karina? Yung bagong life ko. Mas magulo. No, although I was asked to come and give a little bit of background on how the project started. The project was really a proposal that this crazy professor from PWU at the time that we had imported from New York pitched. No? I think when she pitched it, she didn't understand how difficult and complicated it would be. The value of the project, I think the books testify, no? They're witnesses to the value of the project. If you go through the books, I think you'll see why the project. But the project was really part of a much larger proposition. And the larger proposition really had to do with the function of art in the building of community. And the function of art in the building of community, which layered multiple communities and multiple histories. I knew Angel from a previous incarnation of Angel's own projects called Vestiges of War. This was when I was still, again, in an even more simpler life, faculty at the University of Washington in Seattle. The premise was to work around how to explore community building through exchanges and encounters. And the perfect place for this encounter and exchange was the market itself. And Angel's proposal had to do specifically with Baguio. And the difficulty was it was originally conceived as an interdisciplinary experiential learning with project-based components across multiple schools and classes in PWU, with 4 faculty members bringing students out all the way to Baguio, right? At the time when CHED prohibited field trips because there was an accident on the road to Baguio, right? Of another school completely, right? So I don't think the crazy faculty member from New York understood how much difficulty the school was going to have getting permissions, doing all the risk and liability waivers and so on, and pleading with CHED that this was something worthwhile doing for the students. And I think some of them are here who can tell you whether or not it was worthwhile doing and what its impact actually was for them. It was at a time when PWU was also experimenting on experiential learning and teaching outside of the classroom and trying to create interdisciplinary spaces and interdisciplinary activities. And I think Markets of Resistance was certainly a landmark project for the university. It's the first time that we have really done anything like it. And I don't believe the university has done anything like it since, because it was so traumatic to do. not only was there all sorts of regulatory and legal things to break down from the university side, because we work in classrooms and we work, with set boxes. Yeah, and this was designed to break through all of those boxes deliberately, academically and intellectually. So it's not just the market that's the site of exchange and encounter, but the learning moments themselves, which really was meant to be not within the classroom. The second, of course, is that this was very expensive to run. So I had to get permission from the Board of Trustees of PWU. Angel, I don't think not necessarily knows this. Get permission from the Board of Trustees because it went beyond the amount that we would put for research, funding, for interdisciplinary support, for student learning, and we had to get faculty time off because they would be in Baguio and not actually in school and in class. Well, in class, but not in school. Yeah. So the first piece, I think, is that the Markets of Resistance project was not that easy regulatorily to put together. It wasn't cheap regulatorily and fiscally to put together in terms of the university. No, but nonetheless, I think the Board of Trustees agreed that it was a worthwhile experiment. Hence, it went on, and I think rather successful. So there was a redux, there was a series of workshops in PWU. First of all, make learning alive from the academic side, but more importantly, to see the types of communities and constituencies that can be created through the encounter, staged and choreographed by a work of art. Yeah. So we had to, I think this came up the last time I had to speak. PWU paid, right, for the market stalls. So even though the exchange was bartered, behind the scenes was a lot of financial transactions. There was a cost to it that the university absorbed as part of the experiment. Yeah, and the only thing really that the university requested in return was here, right? Was the book, which Karina will attest. Are you speaking also? No, you have to speak of how difficult it was to extract, finish, and put together this book. But as Karina has already admitted to me, Angel, what did you say? Worthwhile waiting, worth the wait of the however many years it took to put together. It's probably a reflection, not just of Angel, an Angel state of mind, but a reflection of how difficult actually it is to build communities, and how things that take long, seeing people that I haven't seen for quite a while, for example, is still a testament, that at the end of the day, it's what binds us together that is worth exploring, because that's the only basis of any potential possibility for the future. So I think that should be sufficient. Did you want me to say anything else?
You can.
I think I've said everything that really needs to be said. No, the Markets of Resistance was a landmark project for PWU. It emerged out of our commitment for interdisciplinary learning and progressive pedagogy, that we liked bringing students out of the classroom, like JASAMS. Yeah, but we were trying to do it for tertiary, which is a little bit more difficult because of the way CHED regulates how we teach and what we teach, and the structures of compliance that we had to teach. But we experimented, and we, as I said, footed the bill, which I think is a, which is. I think it's important to realize that it really is an experiment, and that the experiments afterlives and the experiment's impact after the event is perhaps an even more important benchmark, no? For its value. Like I said in Art Fair, it really is about community, it's about value and value generation. And at the end of the day, the creation of a community is the only thing really that's left and that matters the most. So thank you very much.
Very Kiko. And now we start the program proper with Miss Angel Velasco Shaw.
Oh, I'm going to use
okay.
this for right now. Thank you, Kiko. The program started with you and him. This is a continuation. So I want to thank you all for coming. It's pretty yucky out. We were praying to the rain gods to please stop. So thank you all for bearing with the rain. So I just want to take a moment to acknowledge, I'm going to switch glasses a lot, several people. Butz Herrera, who continues to champion all forms of support for artists, artisans, and curators outside of Manila. That is invaluable efforts to recenter the margins. And to Esti Bagos, Rio Soriano, and the rest of the Ateneo Art Gallery team for their assistance in putting this event together. To the Markets of Resistance 44 contributors, numerous donors for all phases of this project. Co-publisher, Baguio Kunst Book Publishing, Access Art Project, Oliver Ortega, Akamara, Rivera, I think I just saw you come in, for their masterful designer's eye and mind, for actualizing my design concept, perseverance and stamina needed to create a balance between form and content. Karina Velasco, for her unwavering support. Markets of Resistance assistants, May Tuano, and Nicole DeCapia. Copy editors Chris Lacaba, Charlotte Benitez, and Nancy Pay Rodrigo. And to Abby Lara and MMU for their media contributions. No aspect of these gargantuan endeavors would have come to fruition without you. Hats off, okay? I salute you all. And just to say, Kiko, you're my second academic boss who told me at a book launch that they only understood my projects when a book came out. A book should not have to come out for people to support project, I know, like ours. To my fellow windmill chasers, Francisco Benitez, Kawayan de Guia, who is zoomed in, Rocky Cahigan, Nona Garcia, and the rest of the Kitmet Crashers and Baguio Marcada. Our work continues onwards to conquering more windmills. May we continue to embrace the inherent spirit of Kapwa, stay the course for using artistic and radical pedagogical practices towards evolutionary social change. May we continue connecting our disparate communities and embrace our differences. Let us not simply imagine compassion and peace, but practice it. Build and rebuild these sacred states of being towards a better world. I would like to dedicate today's momentous event to my mother, ancestors, and the Baguio Arts Guild. Long may we run. Okay, I've got a slideshow video that there are several fantastic people who are contributors in the book who will also be participating in and out of the slideshow. So, and this is my first slideshow that I ever made, so bear with me. Okay. This is where it all began, folks. This photograph was taken in October of 1988. And it was after a month-long, Okay, now I think I have to hold this horrible thing. Okay. So it was after this month-long period of time of me trying to write my first experimental script. And I had met Santiago Bosse and the Baguio Arts Guild at a talk that Santi gave at CCP. And he had invited me up to Baguio. So most of the people that I met that were at this opening or his talk were members of the Baguio Arts Guild. And Tommy's here right now, who I met at Penguin. And these events were life-changing. And in this photograph, you'll see some of the members of the Guild who influenced me over a 37-year period of time and became my family and the inspiration for doing the kind of work that I do, alongside people like Agnes Arellano, who I've known for 40 years. It's very cool, folks. I never thought that I would live my life here in the way that I do. And I think someone like Silvana Diaz can understand the kind of dedication and love for this country. I mean, granted, she's married to a Filipino, but still, she has committed herself to art and culture and to pedagogy. So I just want to point out a few people. There are two national artists in there. There's Kidlat Tahimik, Ben Cabrera, Roberto Villanueva, Santiago Bosse. I have big hair there. I got a perm, so I'm the big smile in the middle. There's Kawayan Degia, Willie Magtigbay, Perry Mamaril, Kidlat Tahimik Sr., Mitos Benitez, my cousin, David Baradas. These are some of the founding members of the Guild, okay? What do I point this at? This? Oh, next. No, I thought that I was practicing the pointing. Oh, what's this? Oh. Okay, so I told you this is the first time I'm using these things. Okay, so Markets of Resistance is this 4-volume, 1,116-page baby that weighs 9,000 pounds. Yeah? Okay, so I'm just going to whiz through some of these slides. You'll notice, or you'll note, oh, look, hi, Cal, that if you get a chance to look through this volume, you can look through these volumes in whatever ways you want. We tried to create this book in a way that you, as if you were in a market, pick and choose. You don't have to read everything, but we were really, really trying very hard to create a book that could try to somehow emulate what we experienced. Very, very difficult. How do you put something that's 3-dimensional into some 2-dimensional space, and one that has a linearity to it, unless you're like me, who's dyslexic and you can read in every direction, right? Which is quite a gift. So this is the introduction volume, or the booklet. It's 44 pages. Oh, right. Okay, I'm backwards. Okay. Okay, so this is my mind. It's a little bit difficult to read here. I just want to read the quote at the top because outside of the Baguio Arts Guild, there were 2 other big inspirations for this project, the overall Markets of Resistance. Benedict Anderson, who was one of my last mentors, we had gone to the Cordilleras together in 2011. Karina Velasco had invited me and the late Ami Misciano of Penguin Art Gallery. And it was an amazing, amazing experience. And we got lost too. But I just wanted to read this one quote from Benedict's amazing seminal book called Imagine Communities. It's at the top of that quote. It is imagined because the members of even the smallest nation will never know most of their fellow members, meet them, or even hear them. Yet in the minds of each lives the image of their communities. Think about that for a moment. Why do we imagine community? This whole project was real, is real, and imagined. And part of its purpose is to invite all of you into this world, okay? The other inspiration is my mother's family. My grandmother and great-grandmother. My great-grandmother, so the story goes, walked with her cart and oxen from Nueva Ecija, walked about 193 kilometers to Libertad Market, where she set up a stall. And years later, my Lala had a market in Divisoria, and she sold meat. And when some of her clients didn't have money, she would barter, and they would exchange goods, food. And then years later, when my mother and my late father came back from their residencies in the United States, they opened up a clinic in Parañaque. And that story goes that my father had said to my mother, but yeah, we're not going to make any money. Because my mother, if the parents of these sick children could not afford to pay for their medical services, my mother bartered. And clearly, it's in my blood as well. And I'd like to thank people who are in this audience as well, who kept me going because we bartered. So thank you for that. Okay, I'm going to show this video. This video is 10 minutes and 46 minutes. It does go fast. It was installed in the Carnegie International, oldest biennale in Pittsburgh. And it was in a gift shop with my postcards. So this will give you a sense of how there's an interchange between the book and the real-time markets of resistance. All of these components are literally like a multiverse, and they're also on my website. So.
me want to cry. It's so cool. Okay, okay.
There's a lot of colonization that's still going on in the city. Although there's not much influence from America anymore, but the Filipinos themselves, especially from the people from the lowlands, they tend to, in some way, even unconsciously, colonize or change or put their standards or mindset to these people there, which is different from what the people believe in.
Every 2 weeks, one language dies. Every 2 days, a word or two is forgotten.
What it is that is being done is the barter system. The barter system it really depends on the people here in Baguio if they want to sustain that system. Because art is as well like a product, right? It's something that you buy.
I cannot get you an iPhone, huh? I can't afford that. I'll get everything. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Like what kind of longganisa? How many kilos do you need? Just a kilo. What kind of longganisa? Don't make me buy Chinese longganisa. I do not want to go back to SM Baguio.
Who taught us to say tinalak instead of tinalak, bilaan instead of blaan, tiboli instead of tuboli, panagbenga instead of panagbenga. What twist of the brain of the television brought us that we made our tongues lazy in twisting? Often our tongues are only hungry for the exotic food this so different culture is offering us. But when will our tongue learn the real twist, turns and struggles of these people displayed for the eyes of the tourist?
Yay! It's part of a larger project in this map, and it's called Markets of Resistance. So there are only two installations, this one and the Statue of Liberty that is over there.
Excuse me, naipalo ba kayo?
So these are all your photographs that you've woven into one piece?
Yeah, it's basically two photos usually.
It's awesome.
Thank you.
So I really would like to get this one.
Okay, I'll text Rocky.
Thank you, please. I have to load again. I'm very sorry. Yeah, misunderstood.
Okay, it's okay.
Any smart bro, internet broadband, or Glow prepaid. Get the phone cards. I'm out of load. As you can see from the video, I hope, the way that some of the issues, or many of the issues, themes, and topics are being explored in, albeit rather seemingly abstract ways. Because Baguio played such a central role in really the shaping of my career, because I was in my early 20s during 1988. I felt that when I began Markets of Resistance, I was in a place in my life where I could give back, so to speak, and use the various ways that I was living my life and earning a living to make this project. And as Kiko mentioned, we rented these market stalls in Baguio Market, and we created artworks and 2 public art pieces. Public art played a huge, huge role in markets of resistance, and the desire to celebrate what is in the public, because we don't see a lot of contemporary public art in places like a market. And, you know, while it's wonderful that you see the national hero Jose Rizal and Andres Bonifacio, we don't see a lot of other heroes. And certain kinds of cultural, social issues being explored. And because Baguio is the site of, as you saw in the video, a colonial hill station, I also felt like it was really important to carry on certain themes and topics in my life and my obsession with some forms of anti-war activism and calling to attention various forms of conflict and the effects of Spanish-American colonialism. So I wanted to read a quote by Lewis Hine, who wrote a book called The Gift: Creativity and the Artist in the Modern World. With gifts that are agents of change, it is only when the gift has worked in us, only when we have come up to its level, as it were, that we can give it away again. Passing the gift along is the act of gratitude that finishes the labor. The transformation is not accomplished until we have the power to give the gift on our own terms. I have been very fortunate to have been given many, many gifts in life that were not monetary. They were gifts of friendship, of mentorship, of certain kinds of guidance that allowed me to use my creativity to survive and to connect. And some of my former PWU students are here that were the reasons why, in many ways, the book, the whole project, was shaped in the way that it is because of this desire to connect to younger generations and give back. So if they could just stand up for a second. This is May Tuano, Abby Batakabi. Joyce, hi Joyce. This is Joyce Reyes, and this is Mia Dominguez. You're gonna see their works in a minute, but before I do that, wait, what am I doing now? Oh, okay, sorry. I'm gonna show you a few more pieces from the book, just as little teasers. So as I mentioned, there are 4 volumes, which can be read in any order you choose. One volume is called Betrayal and Defiance. Now, the topics, the issues that are being explored within these specific volumes are explored throughout. They're interconnected. And there are visual essays, there's poetry, there are interviews, scholarly essays, and cultural essays. Oops. So this is Rocky Cahigan's work. Rocky was, I couldn't have done this without Rocky. He was the project manager, and he's an artist in the book, being represented in the book, as well as has a beautiful cultural essay. So this is just some of his work. Sorry. I don't know if you can read these, but there are 7 reprints throughout the volumes also. And this is a very important essay, folks, by Patricia Fable. And the market stalls were named after people, women, that were in this essay. And it's addressing some of there's a debate about whether or not the indigenous peoples in the 1900 World's Fair were voluntary or involuntary participants in the fair. And what Patricia Fable discloses is that they were in fact voluntary. And it's an incredible testimony to oral histories, this particular essay. Okay. Yikes. Okay, so I'd like to introduce the next presenter, whose works this particular piece in so many ways encapsulates markets of resistance for a number of different reasons. And it's one of the public art pieces. So I'd like to invite Marta Lavina, who's an artist and co-founder of the cultural space called Why Not, which people should go visit. And they can explain what Why Not is. Oh, here.
Hi. So, first, actually, I'd like to acknowledge the people who really helped me flesh out this project. I mean, my piece in Markets of Resistance, fleshing out the ideas, helping me consolidate a lot of kind of, kalat, I mean, in my brain, a lot of ideas that were all over the place, but they helped me consolidate it and also helped me build this installation. So there's, of course, Angel, who I spoke with for many evenings, trying to get a handle on what I was trying to do. Then there's, of course, Kawayan, who has always been there, and in this journey of mine into the, as an artist, he was integral, of course, in that, in holding my hand and castigating me. No, just kidding. But, and of course, in building the piece, I could not have done this at all without Chris Atiwan. He is a fabulous artist, sculptor, and he put this idea into three-dimensional form. And I could not have done this without him. So wherever you are, Chris, thank you. So this.
Do you want to talk a little bit about the relationship between this piece and your and Fantasy World?
Yeah. So the standees were an idea that I had a while back, and it was really to try and flesh out these constructs of self, society, colonialism, and I chose to use this form, this standee form, because of its connotations well, anyway, it's a carnival. It's a carnival shtick, So you go in there, and it's usually in the form of the natives, the colonized, to be made fun of, and to unconsciously sort of recolonize and anyway, yeah. So the public's engagement with standees is usually quite glib and fun. I should have called it Fantasy World, as my friend said. But anyway, and yeah, so it is. It is a sort of fantasy, and yeah. So getting to that, why did I use Santi Boss's free trade? The larger project uses Western art as the main component of the installation. I was going to use Degas the Star, which is a dancer Ophelia by Millie, Velasquez's Las Meninas, and all of that. No? And this is really because it's coming from my own experience with art, my own knowledge of what art was, what was ingrained in me, which was obviously towards the Western gaze. So when Angel asked me to join this project, I had to think, oh my God, it's not Western art or anything. So what can I do, and where can I look? And one fine day, as I was doing some research, I found this photograph of Governor Pack. So it's a photograph that was taken by Dean Worcester of the then governor of Baguio, Governor Pack, with two negritos. And as I was looking at that, Angel was saying, that Santi has a painting of that, using that photograph. And so, ta-da! I was like, all right, man, now it makes sense. It's gonna make sense. So that's how that started. That's how that started. And, as I looked at this at this painting, well, a photograph of this painting, it really, I started to see so many elements that I wasn't expecting, like his outstretched arms, right? And this is the photograph, his palms are not splayed this way. They're down, sort of like taking a measure of the height of the negritos, right? But in Santi's painting, he's flipped the palms around, and this now becomes more like a messianic figure, right? So I think in the readings of both the painting and the photographs, the work started to come to gel. Thank you, to gel, and it brought me now to the artists themselves. Baguio has been like a bastion of where artists go. Okay, a lot of them are not from Baguio. At least the artists that we knew, they're from the lowlands, but they've somehow found their place in Baguio. Maybe it's the support from each other, being a community, and the Cordilleras themselves. I think attracted all of us because of its strength of character and its resistance almost. It's kept its rituals, it's kept its, even if, for example, of course, modern, they're not running around in bahags anymore, but they've kept that spirit, they've kept their character. And I think that attracts artists, who are searching. So after seeing Santi's work, then I started to look at the artists that I know in Baguio and what their work was like really and how. So the artists included in the standee are Kawayan, Leonard Aguinaldo, Santi Bose, more of his work, and Tommy Hafalia. Yeah. Next, though. Yeah. The ghost, yeah. The next slide.
Oh, now it's going to a different...
the standee.
That's back here.
Yeah, there.
But you also saw it in the video, which is why...
Yeah. That's okay. So this is the result. Right? Are you twitching?
No, I don't know how to use this.
Okay. So I don't really like to call it a backdrop. I call this a ghost image. And it was printed on acrylic. And the reason for that was it would bring the market or the people, the bystanders, the pedestrians, all of that, as to become part of the whole installation. So it doesn't separate. Yeah, it's not. It's almost. It's not in its own little corner of the carnival. You know, it's right smack in the middle of the market. And that in itself also had, the meanings of that were also revealed to me. Why? Why did I choose this particular location in the market? And it also, of course, makes me think of why markets of resistance. I wanted it to be where it was, where all the pedestrians would go, where people would, where the vegetable carts would be left. It was a very active space. And not just so that I could take photos of people who would put their heads into the standees. That's also part of it. But it's also to kind of situate the installation in this concept of a market. And what is that? What is that, right? A place of transaction, a place of engagement, and what is art in this market, right? Who is it for? What is it? I mean, what do people think of it? I was interested in how people would engage with it. Would they ask questions? Would they even be interested in it? Or would they just simply, glance at it and go on their merry way? Did it have an impact, or was it just really entertainment? I have no answers to those questions. So, but these are the things that were going through my mind, both in conceptualizing the piece, as we were making the piece, and as it was actually realized, and I was right there, with everybody else, engaging with my piece. Oh yeah, and the end of it, I mean, was not the installation itself. Sorry, I forgot. I was a photographer pala. So it's the photograph, actually. That is the I guess the end product of this, and the relationship of photographer to the public, right, and to what we are photographing, whether they're people or inanimate objects or landscapes, and what was my relationship as a photographer to that, and why was I doing this, and so all of those things. So I might have an answer by the end of the talk, but it's all questions. It's all questions, really, and I think that's why this project was important also in my practice, in the continuation of my practice, because it did bring up all those questions that I probably never would have thought of in such a short amount of time. Thank you. Are you kicking me out?
No. Okay, I'm just going to zip through these. What's happening? Okay. That's also the cover of Vestiges of War. Okay, so Unnecessary Fictions is another volume, and the title was inspired by our next guest, Tommy Huffalia, and he can talk about unnecessary fictions. Just to show you a few more slides, this is Marta mentioned Chris Adawan, who is an Ifugao woodcarver, who worked on her Fantasy World fiberglass sculptures, as well as Kawaii Ndigia's Liberty for Deliberating the Fall. And that's Chris's piece. Oops. And then this is Gaston Damag, who's a Paris-based Ifugao artist. These are some snippets of the visual essays. Ben Cab. Okay. I'd really love, it's my pleasure to introduce Tommy Huffalia, who has been a friend an inspiration for 37 years. Here are a few. I think it's important because for the young people, look, we're still friends, and we collaborate. What?
Unnecessary or unnecessary?
Both. So these are some of Tommy's gorgeous pieces that are in the book. Okay, whoops. Take it away.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Tommy Hafalia. About the necessary or the unnecessary fiction. I've been so critical about, I'm very critical when it comes to the people of the Cordillera, the northern Cordillera region of the Philippines. More often than not, they are misrepresented, misquoted. So we came up with this. Is it necessary or unnecessary? For example, the image behind me right now, it's called the hugo, or better known as the bulul. Yeah. And while staying with the people, a lot of things were written on books like they are the rice gods, but they're not. They carved these images because somebody is sick. This is just like a shock absorber. They transfer all your misfortune, your sickness into this image. So it has to be in pairs, a male and a female. So it represents the family who owns a big, a vast land that he shares to other people. So not everyone in Ifugao owns a bulur or a hugo. Again, a lot of things were written that every individual or a family in Ifugao owns a bulur. No, only the tumana, only the leaders who could dictate when to start planting, when to harvest, and things like that. Now, is it necessary or the unnecessary fiction that we know? Okay, what's with that? So, the northern Cordillera region of the Philippines lives through the spirit of sharing, and again, connected to the markets of resistance. There's a saying in the language I will Adita ko bukbukudan ng gawis. Let us not keep what is good to ourselves. Ipiyas tako ng gawis. Let us share what is good. There, I don't want to use the word preserve because you cannot put the traditional practices or the culture, the tradition into a freezer. But to sustain it would be a better term.
Tommy, do you want to say a few words about your practice and how you came into photography? Just a few.
Well, first I took up aircraft maintenance engineering. Doesn't have anything to do with photography. But after years of studying, undergrad, underboard, on my peripheral vision, I came up with I saw my Pasiking, the Hana. What am I doing here in Manila? So I just decided I was supposed to report for my first day of apprenticeship at Liberty Aviation that day. But I decided to go home. And then a few weeks after I went home, I was invited by my brother-in-law to be part of a medical team to go up to the mountain. And when we were up there, they're triggered. How could I record things that the majestic Cordillera, since I don't know how to paint or write at that. So I thought of photography being a more realistic medium to record. Then I started with landscapes and then decided why not the people. Then from then on, being with my brother-in-law in remote areas, doing medical missions, I stayed with the people and then went back a lot of times and stayed with the people. And I'm not in the authority to say about anything. I'm not an anthropologist, but I've experienced staying with the people, living with the people in the Cordillera.
In this volume, The Afterlives of Encounters, which is the Markets of Resistance archive, there are some of the stories that Tommy shares about the bolol and about more with unnecessary fictions. And as well as in the volume Unnecessary Fictions. Tommy really helped us, for those of us that are not from the Cordilleras, to catch glimpses. Whoa. I don't know. Is that me? Santi. Okay. Or Renee, one of them. Okay. So anyway, I don't want to keep plugging the book, but there's so many beautiful stories, and eventually it is my hope that I can get online, what do you call them? E-books, yes, because I do understand that this book is a little expensive, which is another contradiction. Okay. So thank you, Tommy. I'm going to whiz through more of these slides. The book is really also addressing process, histories, not just of the Cordilleras and resistance to Spanish and American colonialism, but the history of the Baguio Arts Guild and its interconnective relationship to Access Art Project, my main collaborator on the Markets of Resistance project that was spearheaded by Kauai de Gia. These are some images from the Guild members, which are in the book, and these are early images. My postcard, students' works. And what was so beautiful during the Markets of Resistance, I love the fact that people did not know these were students who were making these works, okay? That was beautiful. There was a certain kind of democratization and opening for how people were looking at work and engaging with it, and it wasn't about, oh, you're famous, or oh, you're this, you're that. You're good. You've got something to express, is what it came down to. There's some journal entries with images. The students had, it was a 6-month experimental course, actually, and students had to, write their impressions of what they were experiencing. And during one of the excursions, which was incredibly memorable, was to Sagada. Tommy and Kauaian helped us to be able to go into these dapais that people are not allowed to be in. And then also Rocky Kahigan, who's from Bontoc. Here are some more students' works, and some of these students are here. and more works. Nona Garcia. This is a beautiful history of the Baguio Market by Erlen Alcantara. Unfolding Consciousness is another volume. Iola Lenzi is a critic and curator, Singaporean-based, who has a piece in the book as well. I'd like to introduce Eileen Lagasse Ramirez, who is zoomed in. Are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Hi.
Hi.
Okay, I feel like I'm in my living room. Hi, Eileen. Thank you for joining us. Kauaian's there too, who will show up after Eileen, or after Faye. Hi.
Hello.
I just want to say that Eileen is the only one that I'm aware of my friends and colleagues who was at both Markets of Resistance in Manila and in Baguio. And I was quite excited to invite her into the book because I knew that she was going to have a critical kind of edge that was at both Markets of Resistance in Manila and in Baguio. And I was quite excited to invite her into the book because I knew that she was going to have a critical kind of edge that was very important for all of us to be able to take criticism. There were a lot of contradictions in the project. So take it away, Eileen.
Okay. I wasn't sure if you had questions, so I have notes that I'm kind of just going to read off from. Is that all right?
Yep.
Okay. So first off, I'd like to thank Angel, the angel of impossible projects, for finally getting this books out. I have to kind of give some context, maybe, in regard to why I was so interested in what she was trying to put together. Because around the same time, Clara and I, my partner, were also kind of building up to do a public art project in Diliman. And maybe it's also got to do with the ethos of the time. So I was listening to Kiko earlier and how he looked kindly on this venture because it was an opportunity to take students out of the classroom and to get them to experience what it's like out there where it's not clinical and it can get very messy. And that was exactly why I was interested to look at this because I don't think we talk about that enough when we're talking about projects that have public engagement front and center. And doing this right in the middle of the market, a very unclinical place where it's essentially disorderly, there's sensory overload, really underlines that the market is a contested and potent site. So I'm also glad that Kanklini is in the volume that you placed my text in, very short text in. And in a way, it affirms my a very nasty habit of asking difficult questions of a truly complex venture that Markets of Resistance is. And justly so. It's a complex and thus difficult thing to carry off. So, I just wanted to read some. So I had the opportunity to look over Kanklini in the volume you put me in, and there's one particular passage that really stuck to me in his talking about cultural heritage. He says the activities aimed at defining them, preserving them, and spreading news about them with the help of the historical and symbolic prestige of certain cultural items almost always involve a simulation. They pretend that society isn't divided into classes, genders, ethnic groups, and regions. Or they suggest that such divisions are trivial in comparison with the greatness and respect possessed by the things that have been named as cultural heritage. I bring that up because it resonates with me as someone who's tried to work in a public space and with communities, often with our very well-meaning ideas. We tend to overlook so many things that are on the ground that are there way before we set upon the sites that we work in. And I'm so happy that Angel was so game for me to keep asking these questions. Like, you know, how did your coming into the market kind of resonate with those other stalls around you? I think these were questions that I would pose to her while we were having these endless conversations as the book was coming to shape and my essay was lagging deadline-wise. Things like how did the dynamics play out between artists and the artisans that you obviously were very invested in working with? I think those are questions that we will continue to need to ask because they address the terms of exchange, the changing chemistry and situatedness, and how we do by, and how we might ask how we did by those we imposed ourselves upon. So including the PWU students, who I'm glad are in the audience. How are they now 10 years down the line? How are they dealing with their art practices given all this problematics that we posed to them when they were younger and impressionable? So, and also, of course, the Baguio market itself is continues to be under siege. So the conditions of engagement are always changing. They can be quite volatile. But the market is the market. It's where we have ideas bump into each other, where there's tussling, there's haggling. Sometimes there might be trade. There could also be like scuffles. I was witness of some very tense moments during markets of resistance, and I'm glad your friendships have been preserved over the years because we're so passionate about what we do. Anyway, the books are performance. I'm glad you brought up Benedict Anderson, and they are performance of imagined communities. They're indeed, you know, our texts are sitting side by side people who we will never meet in our lifetimes. So they look neater in print, I'd say, but the pairing up of forms, anxieties, the variably digested prompts and revelations of untidy process, they underline the very real labor that faces those of us who refuse to merely let the tides of inhuman and bland currency sway us along and keep the inequities and asymmetries that Conclini mentions humming in the process and on site. That's all I have on my notes. Over to you, Angel.
Thank you, Eileen. For those of you that are not familiar with Eileen Legaspi Ramirez, I would just like to also inform people here that Eileen is, she's an incredible professor at UP Diliman in art studies. She is also a curator, a curatorial consultant, and has published numerous essays and articles. Eileen, can I just ask you a quick question about your experiences of participating in both Baguio's Markets of Resistance and Redux? Redux was set at Philippine Women's University, and it was my students' turn to have to share what they learned, so to speak. And You'll see a few slides of that. But could you maybe just say a few things about your experience?
Maybe what congeals in both instances is that I still feel very really I think I feel that I need to be careful all the time about pontificating or just lending my 2 cents worth on what goes on, precisely because I know that I'm not there all the time when the more important and invisible things happen in projects like this. So, and I did say that in my essay. And when the project was in PWU, I was hoping to get a better sense of that, but for some reason or other, I didn't get around to speaking to what you were telling me. You were beginning to tell me at the time that you were going to be working more pointedly with the Bajau community that was nearby. But so I got as far as making trades both in Baguio and in PWU, but I still sense that there's a lot more story to be told about what has gone on and perhaps what has been digested both by your students and co-teachers after 10 years. I sense because the work is so relational that there's a lot of hesitation in revealing certain difficult instances within the project. But I think from a teacher's perspective, those are very important to kind of try to learn from, particularly if you're dealing with students who are setting out on the world and attempting to do curatorial work and organizing work. So that's all I have to say at that point.
Thank you. Just to go back to this Afterlives of Encounters, there are, in this particular volume, which is the Living Archive, I tried really hard to include as many kinds of readers as possible by putting in the syllabus, our schedules, things that people might find useful as educators, curators, lay people who are interested in the intersectional spaces between art, culture, and heritage. And to understand that we tried very hard to be inclusive. And as we know, day-to-day life is riddled with extraordinary contradictions that we have to negotiate all the time. And in this book, not just the book, but in Markets of Resistance, whoa, it took a toll, okay, on all of us. And when the book first came out, I literally collapsed on the ground because I was like, wow. Okay, so thank you, Eileen, for sharing with us.
Thank you.
I would like to introduce Faye Olano now. Olayo, sorry. I'm going to zip through these. In the interest of time, I'm so sorry, folks, but we are running late. Faye, please come on up here. Faye is another instrumental person in Markets of Resistance in all forms or facets of it, in that she also helped to organize. She was the organizer for 2 of the poetry readings, or 3 of them. Again, we had many public events before we hit the 2-week big public event. So she's going to share with us 2 poems that are in Unfolding Consciousness volume.
I have 2 poems. Okay. Oh, yeah. Okay. Hi, I'm Faye. I'm a poet. I'm from La Trinidad, grew up in Baguio. Markets of Resistance, for me, was my trial by fire into the artist community of Baguio City. I was working as a clerk at Mount Cloud Bookshop. Mount Cloud is one of these spaces that held the art community together. It had just begun at that point. 10 years later, it's interesting how things have grown, how I have grown in the artist community. So I'm going to share I'm going to share a poem that I wrote 10 years ago in the middle of being part of Markets of Resistance. And then I'm going to share the poem that came after, which is this span of 10 years of being a poet, being from Baguio, being an Indigenous person in an artist community, being an Indigenous person in a colonial space and a perpetually colonized city. Dear tourist, you can't park there. Dear tourist, you can't park there either. Dear tourist, stop complaining about traffic. You are traffic. Dear tourist, it's pronounced panagbanga. Dear tourist, you're paying too much for those strawberries. Those strawberries, they're not from Baguio. So are those vegetables. So are those brooms. Dear tourists, no, I will not show you directions to SM. Believe it or not, there are so many other places to go. Dear tourists, La Presa is a fictional place made cash cow by hypertourism, and before it was a circus freak attraction, we could hike the trail leading to the summit. Now there are only paved roads. Dear tourists, Sagada isn't a jeepney ride away. It's more like a 6-hour bus ride. Dear tourists, what is up with wanting to wear our traditional garb? Is it cool? Do you think you're one of us now? Is this a self-imposed rite of passage? Dear tourists, sometimes I wonder if you wonder what this city is like without you. Without your noise and your nuisance and your money, sometimes I wonder if you wonder how much of the city is truly itself and how much of it was twisted for you, the mistress of this love affair. My city has always opened its arms to you. And the streets flood with your feet and your tires, and the streets flood with your garbage and your baggage. Still, my city loves you. And as you leave, like all tourists do, remember that when a souvenir shop is stripped off its overpriced tags, bare from banners and glitter, drum and lyre back in their cases, sidewalk of trampled petals, rinsed and drowned by the passing season's monsoon, the city is home to the ones left behind. So this poem is the other side of that coin. Ode to B-Town. My city is cultural capital, makes capital of its culture. Makes keychains and barrel mans and penis ashtrays. My city is heritage site. Holds a world's fair of its people, the visitors who think of us as exhibition, look for huts and tails, tattoos and severed heads. My city is stolen land. Imperial artifact. Proud hill station carved and carpet bombed, every street name a testament to a war we are still losing. My city is a cemented hill, a maze of construction sites, uprooted forests and bulldozed parks, parking lots and private properties. My city is trauma survivor. The earth of it quaked and flooded, its mountains mined empty, the structures raised and raised higher, its people do not forget. My city is where the seniors and miners and gold diggers, vegetable dealers and market vendors have all started, heard, and passed the same rumor at rumors. My city is functional alcoholic, where the waiters give you nicknames and the bars pretend to close at midnight. My city is gin poured to the ground before the first shot and a country song before the last. My city is the smell of cigarettes in no smoking areas. My city is a smell of dama de noche on a late night drive. My city is a place, a person, a state of mind. It is a postcard of a childhood memory calling you home. Thank you.
Okay.
I am done.
All of these people were very integral in the entire project, and it's such a pleasure to be able to show their artworks also in the book and try to promote another way of reading once again. It's not just the written word, it's visual literacy. This is Rene Aquitania, who is another one of the founders of the Baguio Arts Guild, and just snippets of his performance and paintings. Kawayan De Gia, who is my partner in crime that I've known since he was 9. Sorry, got to say that. Hi, Cow. Thank you
Hello, hello.
for patiently waiting.
That's all right.
Let me just, can you see some of the works that I have up here? Oh,
I
wait.
think so.
Okay, so I'm going to flip through them, and then please, you can tell us stories about so many things. So I'm going to let you roll. Oops. Yeah.
Well, hello, everyone. I feel like I'm on a firing squad like the rest of you. All for Angel. But really, Angel, congratulations on this, and congratulations to all of us. It's, yeah, it's been 10 years. Just a quick story on how this whole thing came about. When Angel came to Baguio in, what was that, maybe 2013 or something, when he came back, we were just done with the Singapore Biennale of the Axis Art Project. Axis Art Project was really a initiative where we could try to gather different practices, different different artists from all over the country, any kind, wood carvers. You had artists from Manila, and just get some sort of dialogue going. This project turned into the following year turned into a caravan that went up to as far as Bontoc. We transformed the. Sorry, I don't have any visual references, but so when Angel came, and she proposed this idea. Then it was an idea. Um, it was right along the line of work that we were doing, and of course there was we had the mechanics, and we were used to the whole sort of the activity that we had to engaging in public spaces. The market wasn't new. But of course, it's one big it's one big it's a bigger thing when the project goes on onto the ground, and that's where everyone from Faye to Abby to Tommy, everyone from Baguio start to engage in it. Now 10 years later, the market is still being attacked by big developers. They're slowly choking all the small local businesses, and they try to completely sell it out during the pandemic. Make the big deal during the pandemic when Baguio locals could not have any protest or any and we too created light boxes. We created a work which showed the history of the Baguio market, and somehow I think the public it was brought to light, and even went into the papers, and because of that, I think there's still some resistance. So that's really the markets of resistance. But yeah, we're still on that constant battle, big and small, and to get this book out, I think is a big battle that is finally you're finally there, Angel. We accidentally became a publishing house, Baguio Kunst, accidental, and we were the last push for Angel's book to get out there. Now, I don't know, Angel, would you like this to be more of a Q&A or something with a conversation? Madame?
Oh, sorry. I would actually like to ask the audience, and thank you for staying. I understand that I tend to ramble. Y'all can laugh, that's okay. So this last slide, actually, Kao, can you see it? This is Tia Tiwong, and I really need to acknowledge it. It's a project that Kawayan Padma Perez, Rocky Kahigan, Alan Carino, and Frank Samatu took the lead in to create this incredible encyclopedia, which is also for sale downstairs. And it was an amazing, extraordinary resource for me to be able to work on the Afterlives of Encounters volume. So I just wanted to try to bring this whole thing circular, right? So, you know, comments, questions, anyone? Or actually also for the people that are part of this roundtable, if you want to share more things, the students, if you actually would like to come up too right now, over here. Don't be shy. Come on. It's 10 years later, for crying out loud. Anybody? Hang on one second. Boy.
First of all, congratulations to everyone, Angel. Since I know your project is deeply rooted with the actual conditions of the market and, of course, the colonized political landscape of Baguio, I was wondering do you think the volumes, this publication will also have a sort of like political impact in terms of, I guess, resolving some of the issues surrounding, maybe start with the market itself, like what Kawayan has already mentioned, that it's still being contested. And yeah, maybe some of the other issues surrounding the local, yeah.
Well, I think hopefully the book can give have some effect to the local community, but again, also no one reads books now, you know. I mean, so it becomes, I don't know. I think this book is more like perhaps an academic record of sorts rather than a, you know, a great work of propaganda counter, you know. So I don't know, Faye, Angel, Tommy, I don't know, Mart.
I tend to agree with you on some levels, and it's quite tragic because I never take my hats off. I mean, I'm an educator. I'm a social, cultural, political activist. I'm an artist. And it is painful to know that reading is a thing of the past. I think in some ways, one of the largest contradictions is how elitist markets of resistance wound up being. And it's painful. You know, and we can't, it's very difficult to talk about these contradictions. It's very difficult to be in a public space and be vulnerable. It's very difficult to stand beside people that have been fighting for their land and sea rights and not speak for them, which are the indigenous peoples, not just of this country, but in the world. So what little bits of things that this book, that these experiences that we all had, if we can use them in some ways to just connect with strangers, with other people, and That's it, right? I mean, let's be real about this, as Benedict Anderson said. You know, I mean, we live in imagined community. And yet, look at what we did. Look at what we formed with each other. And it is the hope that we can continue with these struggles. We have to. I mean, I don't want to get on a soapbox or anything, but this is the first time, I mean, imagine the responsibility, and I'm not going, oh, woe is Angel Shaw, no, but the responsibility of trying to put this book out was the most difficult, loneliest thing I've ever done in my life, and I hope I never have to go through that again. I knew that so many people were there and with me and supportive, but you know, it isn't easy, and I'm terrified. I'm not afraid of going to jail or losing my job. I mean, that's what's happening in the world to my friends. And the people in the Baguio market are going to lose their livelihoods. And with that is a loss of heritage. With that is a loss of an economy, of a cultural currency, of an economy that we're letting go of. Right? And I do firmly believe that the work that we all did together and the work that this book, I hope, can mean is one of continuation. As I mentioned, like, I will try to get an ebook out there. That's going to be a struggle too. I'm probably going to get censored right now in the United States. I'm supposed to be touring this project. My colleagues and friends are now being fired and under attack. So the chances of me getting this book and being on a tour in the US is very slim right now. And many of you here know what these struggles are. You live it, you're part of it. But these are our realities, and I don't want any of us to give up, you know, but to understand, as in Eileen, this question of, is it futile? No, somewhere there, none of this is, because we're still trying to do what we do, right? Does that make sense?
May I ask a question?
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe of Kao and the other, you know, the Baguio residents, because this is really close to where you're at. Be engaged with the creative city discourse helped you kind of get a better hearing of what you're trying to fight for, or has that kind of just crippled you even more? I'm just interested to find out how you try to navigate that.
Well, I don't know. It should really work like a blessing, right? I mean, to be acknowledged or whatever, but it actually is working against our interest because it is everything now that is presented publicly has to be sort of whitewashed, you know. So the whole point of really engaging or you know, to be critical about something is ano, parang ninakaw yung ano namin. yung playground namin or yung toy namin. So it's really sad, but because of course cities or governments will always try to look at things that are commercially viable, or you know, so again it's wearing the pink G-strings, you know, and that's culture and art. So pero sayang kasi may footing na tayo doon with the history of the Baguio Arts Guild, pero somehow it's what's happening now is, you know, you have all these experts coming out from nowhere who are experts suddenly on culture and art, and you're like, who the fuck are these people, you know? Because there's also money involved, you know. So that's where they, you know, as for Axis or the Baguio Arts Guild, there was never any money. So people, it was that bayanihan to get it out and to engage. So it's rather working more as a curse. Although maybe they're starting to broaden their horizons a little bit, and they're like getting people like Rocky to curate the exhibition. So may konting ano naman, pero ano pa rin, it's like a fourth of its potential. So yun. I don't know, Faye or Tommy, you can answer, add to that.
I just want to join in. I have a background in graphics and all sorts of communication. So basically, it's pardon the pun, Angel. It's like marketing, establishing the fact that you're a creative city. It's really used, in a global sense to market cities. So it's again about that whole idea of capitalizing on something that you can sell, as opposed to really giving credit to, I guess, the people that have, were grassroots and started it. And then they'll give you, I guess, concessions, but this idea of creative cities, I mean, that's a global thing. It's like world fairs or all sorts of things that people use to market something. So in that line, I guess that's how I understand that it doesn't really work all that much. Is that something that makes sense?
So first of all, the creative city is UNESCO, and people need to understand that UNESCO is one of the main keepers of a certain kind of cultural mythology alive. So maybe, Tommy, you can address the fact that, the rice terraces are not 2,000 years old, and that they're always going to be seen as 2,000 years old because it's been sanctified. And yet you have the very people who built these terraces, their ancestors and whatnot, and scientists saying no. So UNESCO is a tool of certain kinds of oppression and repression. It's not just colonial. It's beyond that. But I mean, I do think that none of us, and Cal, you brought this up, that none of us realized that the work that we were doing that we would be creating these artifacts, that we would be creating these, I happen to love books, and there's a certain kind of something about being able to touch them and hold them, and I feel like that people have said that we created the Pat Hoffey said it, that none of us knew that the Baguio art market,
Baguio Art Market
was non-existent. That the Baguio Art Market was non-existent, and that the Baguio Marketplace was going to die because of commerce, and in the name of Shoe Mart and all the other heavy hitters. So maybe you could speak to that a little bit, and if the students can jump in too and talk about what was it like for you, because the market was a different place. So maybe Cal first and then the students. Yeah.
Well, such a project like this would not be possible today for sure, because of this creative city thing. Yeah, and like all markets, it's the soul of the place, and really, if we lose this Baguio market, and they went one block even further now towards Lacandula, they're really taking a grip on it, and it will be the end of the Baguio we know, I think. And in regards to the whole thing of your book, and sorry, I have to go back. I think that markets of resistance, even if it may not go out to the common man out there, I think it's still a great prototype for other places, other cities that are more liberal than Baguio. Baguio is the most conservative fucking city in the country at the moment. Really, it's the city of no, as Faye puts it. It's really true. But go on.
Yeah, please. And Faye's master's was on the Baguio Market, so yeah. Wait, here, got my chair.
Hi. Angel, one of the parts of the markets of resistance was an art exhibit of souvenir items that were sold at the Baguio market. Rocky, Kervin, and I were tasked with collecting the mythologies that were created around these souvenir items. Now, what does this have to do with the creative city? Baguio is a UNESCO creative city of folk arts and crafts, and a body applied for that title. You applied to be a folk arts and crafts creative city because of the commercial viability of the souvenirs and the mythologies that we input into these souvenirs. I'm stressing this because there is some participation of creatives in the city. But we are always put in a difficult position where we always have to negotiate which parts of our tradition, our rituals, our culture should we sell, can we sell. And then we get villainized for commodifying our own culture by people who buy our culture and by people who buy these myths about our culture. So the whole creative city for folk arts and crafts, this want to hold on to it, the creation of the Creative City Council, which makes no sense because you have a body that's basically regulating artists and what artists can do and what artists can sell and what art gets to be funded. If it's not commercially viable, if it has nothing to do with souvenirs, if it has nothing to do with like your bahag and your bulol and your tapis, then it's basically useless for the city. And that kills the city. We're a creative city, but it's killing all of the creatives. So that's basically it.
Grabe.
Queenie talks about it in the essay, but I don't in his essay, and about the need to stop with the there's too much disconnect. In part, not just because of UNESCO, but UNESCO plays a great role, as do other kinds of government institutions, and whether they be, every form of government institutions. And that Canclini is basically saying that the people, the very people in these cities and in these cultures are the ones that need to get critical and understand. But again, we're living in a world right now that's imploding, and it's very difficult to be able to address these issues on the ground. Right? But I do think that there is a resistance, or the fact that Rocky had just done a spectacular job with the last creative city does say something. If I may, I wanted to get the former students, to jump in a little bit, in the conversation, because I think we're going to have to wrap up soon, yeah? So, Mia, or any of you, would you like to share?
Yeah, about how the experience went with the Markets of Resistance. Personally, since mahaba siya, sorry, magtatagalog na ako, guys. So,
I gave my students a nosebleed.
Mahaba in a way, pero at the same time, it felt so short na when we were there in Baguio, like, I was then into photography. Tapos, lagi namin nadadaanan yung mga film shops. So, yung mga pinapabarter ko, basta bigyan nyo lang ako ng mga film strips. So, I got a lot of like a box, like boxes of films that I na nakuha ko dun sa project. And then at the same time, also the peanut brittle just right beside the shop that we were guarding, like bantay kami nun. Tapos sinasabihan ko na lang yung minsan yung ibang gusto makipag-barter kapag interested sila dun sa artwork pa. Diyan po sa kapitbahay po, ito yung dito po may peanut brittle, parang paborito ko po yun. So, in some way, mas more on like I'm thinking of the close proximities, like how can I at the same time connect in a small way, gesture na talk also with other people in the market din. And then siguro we made zines during the project. And then even after MOR, that time kasi I ended up like being invited also as on a group exhibit in Singapore. And then dala-dala ko yung MOR na zines na ginawa namin. Collaboration siya with me and my brother, who was also part of the project. And then I used it as like icebreaker for people to just keep on parang an introduction of what is going on, I don't know, like the project that we have. And then also may time din na dala-dala ko rin. Ang dami kong Xerox copy nun, nung MOR zines namin. And then like going to BLTX, joining zine communities here in Manila, and also may time na pumupunta kami ng Bacolod. And then we barter as much as possible. Like if yun yung di siya for sale, kunyari, pag nandun kami sa certain events na yun, yeah, we barter it with, in exchange, yes, binabarter namin siya in exchange with other zines or kahit stickers, basta may matripan kami na artwork nung fellow artists. And then from there, we start a conversation. And then we ended up like knowing them, inviting them for group shows, exhibits, or like doing projects together. So in some way, yeah, ano siya, MOR helped in some way with our practice also, my practice personally then. Kasi right after the MOR, me and my brother made like this collective called Parasite Projects. And then we ended up inviting artists, since we live in Las Piñas, like down south naman in Manila. Lagi kasing ganap sa QC, ang hirap mag-commute. Lagi kaming pumupunta na parang ang gastos-gastos. Sila naman kaya pumunta dito sa south. So ended up, yun, in some way, the MOR became like a inspiration, and at the same time, like, ang dami namin na meet na Baguio artists, and we got so inspired from it. And then until now, me, after 10 years of the project, is I'm already a teacher, an art teacher for mas more on intimate classes, like from very young kids, like 4 years old to adults. Na mas hindi kasi ako masalita, like, or masulat. So mas more on sa visual language. How can I how can I connect it with them in some way? So yun.
Thanks.
Siguro it's been a long time, and during that time, I don't know, we remember, and I think I'm the most quiet person there. So I'm more like an observer, and I've learned a lot, maybe a lot. Di ba sure? No, I think I really learned a lot, because during that time, I think I'm in an artist block, so I cannot produce anything, draw anything before we actually produce for markets. So I'm used to like painting, and let's say other topics, more like personal theme and concepts. And then markets came. I didn't know that I will be included. And let's say, during that time, I really don't know what to do. Until like, I think before the market starts, like I think a month, I really don't know what to do. But during the, let's say, the experience of the learning during that time, siguro I can say na it influenced and it taught me a different perspective, a different world, na besides the world that I live in, like a very small, let's say more personal, or more quiet, or a different perspective compared to the Baguio artists. And to be more because I think art, for me, my art is my way of communications, because I really cannot really say things, but I use my work as it. And I think I've learned to be more vocal about things also. It's like images can be interpreted many ways. And for me, as an artist, I really like that. So to hear stories of how they see my work. And after, let's say, years, and I'm 10 years now. Yeah, I just realized it. Oh, grabe, that was 10 years ago. Parang almost, I was like...
You were the youngest.
Yeah, I'm like the problem in markets because I'm minor during that time. So they need to like sign a lot of things just for me to join. So I feel like I'm really like somehow like privileged to be still joining. So the legal stuff like that. And after years, I started teaching. So I'm a teacher as well, and more general. And like, let's say the start of my teaching, the books really teach things that you really like. Sabi nga yung bulol is still there. So I was like a battle in my mind. That do I have to say what I really learned about it? So I decided that I did. So they really like, the students reacted like, oh really? Parang iba daw pala, and such like that. And I think it somehow made me like think, oh, it really has an impact. Kumbaga, in this whole thing, maybe it's been years, but I think it can really impact until, but as long we're making noises, or I think it's more like, what do you call that? Continuous noise, like in a positive way, I guess. So, keep on hearing the voices of people that cannot really speak, or the problems that cannot really show, or somehow like in that area. I forgot the term. So after 10 years, when I was there in barter, sadly we didn't able to barter like for so long because we need to go back to Manila. So that's the thing that I didn't somehow experience more, to barter really with my work, and to think about my personality. During that time, I don't really talk. So I asked for a barter that I can use for my artwork. So I asked for a sculpture like that I may and turn it into an artwork again, just to think na maybe in the future, because it's related to market of resistance. So in the future, it can actually represent it somehow, of what my experience is. And until now, it's not done. So maybe because we're waiting for the book to be done. So, so maybe I have to finish it. So I think it really influences me with the way I think, and to conceptualize my artwork. And I think it made an impact in my life and such. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. So, I'm May. Actually, I am the only communication arts student that was selected in this project. So, maybe just very quickly, since I am more of a writer, and I think this on this side we're the introverts. So, kind of like. So yeah, maybe if it's okay, it's a very short one. I actually want to read something since I'm, like I said, I'm more of a writer and I love documenting everything. So I worked on a documentary that is still ongoing. Don't worry, we will finish it. And my journal is part of this book. So I'm a bit nervous today because it's such a long time since I last spoke in front of the audience. So here is like a new entry to my journal about markets of resistance. I still remember very clearly how it all began. My former dean from the PW School of Arts and Sciences called me in and told me she had chosen me to be part of a special project. At first, like, special project, what? I didn't know what to expect, but when I learned that it would involve like an immersion in Baguio, together with the fine arts students and access to Baguio artists, I immediately said yes. Because I've always loved Baguio, the cool weather, the relaxed atmosphere, and of course, the vibrant art scene. It's a place that makes you feel inspired the moment you arrive. Before joining, Professor Shaw, or we call her Mama Shaw, asked me about my interest and what I hope to gain from this project. Almost like an initial interview, I told her about my hobbies, photography and event coordination. To my surprise, she and our dean, Dean Olive Villaferte, agreed that I could contribute in my own way. At first, though, I was hesitant. I never really saw myself as an quote-unquote artist. I've always been shy and the quiet type. I don't talk much and I often stay behind the scenes. The irony is that I love attending music festivals and taking photos and capturing moments. Things that require you to look outward and connect with people. So deep inside, I realized that this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to step out of my comfort zone. The project itself was like a classroom taken outdoors. We had readings, assignments, and discussions, but instead of being stuck in four walls, we were out in Baguio, learning history, culture, and art by living it. We studied the historical background of Cordillera. We listened to artists' stories. We even tried hands-on activities, painting, sketching, wood carving, and even bartering at the market, which is all in this book. Everyone contributed something unique. The fine arts students through their visual work and me through writing, documentation, and eventually photography and videography. This was actually where I learned how to use a video camera properly and how to edit photos and videos. So looking back, those skills became the foundation of many things that I do today. So I'm in marketing now. I'm currently working actually in Ateneo CCE. That's in Salcedo, by the way. Anyway, but what really stayed with me wasn't just the technical lessons. It was the connections we made. It was listening to the Baguio artists, Kidlat Tahimik, Ben Cab, Kawayan, Miss Faye, Miss Martha, Rocky, Nona, Mr. Tommy Hafalia, and many more great artists. It made us realize something important. No matter our generation, background, or culture, we're not really that different. When we open ourselves up, connect, and work together, we can create something both memorable and meaningful. So thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Okay. Whew. I'm a bit nervous, but yeah. Hi everyone, I'm Mia. I remember the first time I met Mama Shaw. It was just it was just a random afternoon. It was just like Sir Sam just invited me to like a talk in Ayala Museum, and she just came up to me and she asked me a bunch of questions, and I was like thinking, who is this person? She's talking to me in English. Just invited me to like a talk in Ayala Museum, and she just came up to me and she asked me a bunch of questions, and I was like thinking, who is this person? She's talking to me in English, and I'm running out of it. And then like a few weeks later, that same teacher tells me that I'm a part of a special project, which was I don't think I've ever told anyone this, but yeah, back then I didn't think too much of myself. It was kind of like I was kind of shocked because I was actually like I had difficulty learning inside classrooms, so I was always like the black sheep. People was always like thinking I'm ditching school, but in reality, it was just really too difficult to me. But anyways, markets of resistance kind of changed or opened the world to me that there's more to just learning in the classroom, and learning shouldn't stop there. And I've kept that in mind ever since. So yeah, we've been a part of that project ever since, and I can't believe it's like 10 years now. Back then, I remember that I wanted to immerse myself with people as much as possible. So I was like talking to everyone that we got a chance to talk to. I remember when we were in Maligkong, Bontok, which was actually kind of reconnecting me with my bloodlines in Maligkong, because I was like, hey, I saw my last name here. I called my mom right away, and I was like, and she was like, oh yeah, that's where your great grandfather was. And I was like, you knew all this time and you never told me anything. So I was like, it was like an eye opener for me because I had so much questions. I always felt like I was an outcast everywhere. So that in a sense gave me some sort of identity. So it made me love the project more, because the more I got to talk to like different wood carvers, different artists in Baguio, I began to realize that this is not just a project. This is like seeing their lives through their very own eyes, and how difficult it can be, especially if you don't have the platforms that people that are lucky enough to have. And I have been keeping like a curious eye, and learning has always been back and forth with me. So in the south, I'm from Cavite. It's a small town, and it's called Cavite City. If you look up Cavite City in the map, it's like a small thing right in the cove. It looks like an appendix, but yeah. Yeah, so we have like a vast art community there. It's mostly street, and one of the things that markets has helped me do back in my hometown is like, we have so much talent there. Why not make a community so like people don't have to go to Manila or in another country, which roots back to our early colonialization and westernization. Like in this one conversation, I remember it was with Apple Fuanta. Like his kids just sent him money, and they were like in another state or in another country. And I remember there was also this conversation with a farmer as well, that they're having a hard time because of their knees. They can't keep maintaining the rice terraces like 8 hours or more than just that per day, because they're getting old, and they're like, their kids are so caught up in the globalization that's happening at such a fast rate that everyone wants to hop on the bandwagon that I want to be westernized without even realizing it. So it's kind of, for me, it was kind of, I want to say sad at some point, because these are Asian people and they're left alone in terrace, but they're very strong, stronger than us, mind you. But yeah, that was my experience back then. Now I actually I founded my own company. I'm in sales actually, but my original game plan was just to stay in sales and like use capitalism a little bit to earn money for my art, so I can fund my art. Yeah. So yeah, I'm back at the part where I realized that hey, I slowly got a studio and I'm slowly building my own community. So I would kind of like in a sense, markets has affected me in my way of thinking when it comes to community. Like I would rather have these kids annoy me and like do art in my studio than rather be in other places doing God knows what and you know being misled to anything else. So and above all, like getting to know their community and the culture that they seem to pass by, because yeah, there's truth in you can see the culture and the soul of a place or a city in the market. So if you eat local, you support the local community. If you buy local, you support the local community, which will help them to thrive instead of supporting big brands like big consumerism. But yeah, that's the duality for me because I work in sales, but at the same time, I'm an artist. So yeah, that's it for me. Thank you.
We're really going to have to wrap up. I want to thank you all once again for staying here. You're my friends and my family, so I get it. But, you know, we really hope to have more conversations. There's so many things to discuss. And perhaps, hopefully, in ways that are in different kinds of environments. You know, so I want to thank you all for coming very much and for supporting us. And I want to thank all the contributors and folks who came down, Abby, Jason, Randy, to help. I'd like to thank Oliver again and Chris Lacaba for your incredible work on the book. So thank you all for coming and enjoy your evening.